This week on Capitol Report.
Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson!
The Connecticut GOP goes way right to rally the troops behind 5th District candidate George Logan.
He's exactly the right kind of person that we need right now.
Also, why the Republican nominee for North Carolina governor has the attention of Connecticut's Senate leaders.
We know that Connecticut is a great place to do business. It's a great place to raise a family.
The push to cover paid sick days for more Connecticut workers.
We need to fix this. It's a hole in the way that we're treating workers in our state.
And is this the end of the road for Connecticut's independent party?
There's little confusion among voters about the fact we are a real party.
No artificial colors or flavorings here. Cap Report starts now. Welcome to Cap Report. I am Tom Dudchik. We are so glad you're spending part of this Sunday morning. Hopefully your brackets are not all busted this morning. Alongside Daniel Wong, the mayor of Bloomfield, Connecticut. Good morning. Great Joe Simmons, former Speaker of the House, still having gavel envy right now.
I do miss it. I do it a lot.
Liz Grant, a Republican strategist. Welcome.
Good morning.
And look who's back. Johnny McKinney's fired up this morning.
I am back from my winter hibernation. Let's go.
We saw your shadow. Here we go again, guys. Democratic Congresswoman Jahana Hayes versus Republican George Logan in Connecticut's hotly contested 5th Congressional District. Republicans are desperately trying to flip the district. And guess what, guys? They brought House Speaker Mike Johnson to rally the troops last weekend, who's a staunch conservative, everybody knows. A bit of a contrast to what we've seen and heard from Logan in the past. The bottom line is, turn what's been solid blue, red. Watch this, guys.
Folks are making a decision whether to put gas in their cars or to buy food. That's a problem. We can change that. The country's going in the wrong path. We have the opportunity to get us on the right track, and I'm looking forward to getting down to the House of Representatives and hitting the ground running. You know, we've got Speaker Johnson here with us today because he understands, he cares about us. He cares about Connecticut. He understands that we need to be part of that solution, and I'm looking forward to helping the leadership down there accomplish that.
This is about two competing visions for America. And I would say to the people that, not just Republicans, but independent voters and people who are looking for solutions, compare those party platforms. Look at what we're going to advance, the ideas that we're putting on the table. If you want lower energy cost and a lower cost of living, if you want more secure streets, if you want safety, if you want the border closed so that we can maintain our sovereignty and security, if you want to project strength on the world stage instead of weakness, you got to vote for Republicans.
So the state Democrat chair and Governor Lamont called out Johnson for his close ties to Donald Trump. Jahana Hayes went on X to weigh in, calling Johnson's support of Logan an odd and unfortunate choice. I live here, and we reject Johnson's extreme views on democracy, national security, abortion, LGBTQ rights. This further solidifies my opponent's embrace of the most extreme MAGA policies. Jahana Hayes, really Jahana Hayes. The mayor, Daniel Wong, what do you think about that, huh?
Well, good morning. And
Fired out of a cannon. Let's go.
Well, this is an evidence that if elected, Logan is going to be right where the MAGA Republicans are. I don't know what is. Like, you have the Republican Study Committee that just came out with their budget, reducing eliminations of $35 caps on insulin, right? Something Jahana has decided to continue to champion for. You have them eliminating energy costs and tax cuts for those pieces, and then you have them supporting the rise of Social Security age for retirement. I don't know what's going on here. So everything that Johnson came to Connecticut with, by the way, was appalling to see all those Republicans. I don't recognize Republicans in Connecticut today. To come here and tote that is just in alignment with the Republican Party. So Logan has to tread very carefully. I think that, like Jahana has said, you need to reject the Republicans in the House and continue. It's just appalling.
Well, we know where Liz stands on this, so Johnny McKinney, take it away.
Well, look, we now know this is going to be one of the closest races in the country. It was the 5th closest race 2 years ago. George Logan brought in over 450 to 500 people at an announcement without any press, calls about it. Shows tremendous support for George. In the first quarter, he outraised Congresswoman Hayes. So this is going to be one of the closest races in the country. We should be, as political junkies, really excited that we're actually having that kind of race in Connecticut. I just want to say, on a personal note, I know George Logan. This is exactly the kind of Republican we need to be running in Connecticut. This is exactly the type of person who works across party lines, who we need serving in Congress. George is not a shrill partisan. He is a leader. This is going to be a great race.
But we understand why they roll in these national party people into Connecticut. It traditionally doesn't work. No one's going to vote for or against George Logan because Mike Johnson's in.
Well, this one's a little more delicate than that. And John, you are right. Us political junkies are looking at it, and I think it was an absolute mistake. You're bringing in the Speaker of the House, which I understand you have to kiss the ring at some level, but where he stands on immigration is so out of line where Connecticut is. That immigration bill was teed up, Senate passed it on his desk. All he had to do was pass it. The majority of the Americans in this country wanted it passed. He stood in it. So does that reflect on what George believes, or is it just a matter of being able to run for the office? I think that's troublesome, and we should pay attention to it.
Yeah, look, this is my challenge to Congresswoman Hayes, who I don't really know very well. I have nothing against her. But if you're going to say George Logan stands for everything that Mike Johnson stands for, which he doesn't, then she must agree that she stands for everything that the people who support her do. And if that's the case, she supports and stands with the pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, anti-Jew caucus in her party. And if I'm George Logan, I'm going to beat that drum from now until November. There are a lot of Jewish voters in the 5th District, and Jahana Hayes doesn't stand with them. She doesn't stand with the state of Israel. She stands with the anti-Semites who want to destroy the state of Israel.
All right, guys. Hey, so Democratic leaders in the Connecticut Senate want to roll out the welcome mat to North Carolina businessmen, baby, telling them, hey, if your state elects the Republican gubernatorial candidate in November, you can move your company here. Senate President Marty Looney, among those who have written a letter to the Connecticut Department of Economic Development and Community Development, urging them to explore opportunities to attract North Carolina businesses. They say GOP gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson has a history of inflammatory and divisive comments on abortions, from issues to abortion to homosexuality, the Holocaust, which should be alarming to North Carolina businesses.
We think with his recent nomination and clearing through the Republican primary, that sends a real message to businesses in North Carolina. We want to have them come to Connecticut, and we're going to ask our commissioner to go out there and go get them.
Look, it's very competitive out there. There are a lot of reasons companies move. When it comes to values, a lot of people come to Connecticut because they like our values.
DECD Commissioner Designate is taking a look at this, citing Connecticut as welcoming with socially progressive values. As for North Carolina's Lieutenant Governor, here's what Mark Robinson's campaign had to say, quote, hey, who cares what these Northeastern liberals have to say? Adding, they should stop these silly PR stunts like this and take a page from North Carolina conservatives' book, cut taxes on families and businesses, reduce burdensome regulations, and stop wasteful government spending. Joe Arasiewicz.
Well, I'm glad the candidate pointed out a lot of the things we did in 2017 as part of our budget. I appreciate it.
It's all about you, Joe, right?
No, but why do we fall into these traps? It's happened in Florida and Texas and back and forth. It's absolutely silly. Stay out of it. Connecticut stands on its own. The work that we're doing with our budget, paying down our pensions, working with the business, job training, that stands for itself. We don't need to advertise.
Liz, Rick Perry came in to stomp on Malloy a few years ago.
Yes. I mean, it wasn't just that. I think at the time, wasn't Mike Pence governor of Indiana, and he put out a full-page ad?
Yes.
Here's the thing. People have done this all the time, and it's usually to try and drag the governors in the other states. It makes NGA meetings really entertaining for those of you who have ever had to go to one of those.
That's National Governors Association meeting to everybody else.
The governor tried to do this in 2022, remember, and he used this as an effort to try and get businesses to come to Connecticut regarding our choice policies, and it didn't work. I think, and then we found out, obviously that a lot of businesses were moving to Nashville. I think the issue here is Connecticut is the 6th costliest place in the country to do business. When you look at North Carolina, they're ranked #1 by CNBC in terms of places to do business. Connecticut is ranked 31. Right? So if the Democrats in the legislature are really serious about trying to make Connecticut a place where businesses want to come, there are a lot of things that they can do, and we're going to talk about some of their anti-business policies in a minute here, but there are things that they have to do to make Connecticut a place where it is affordable for business and it's affordable for residents to come, because otherwise these are empty.
Well, yeah, so you're not wrong. Connecticut is an extremely, high cost of living, very expensive place to live. We're trying to figure out housing, and there has been been an exodus of major businesses and headquarters moving out of the state.
And people, by the way.
But with that being said, the Senate Dems are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be driving business development. We do this on the local level. We try to make sure that we expand our tax base and really pay attention to that. So kudos to the leadership in the Dems for really figuring out how to do proactive activities to get more business into the state.
All right, guys. So at the state capitol, some lawmakers want to make it so more workers are eligible for paid sick time. A bill under consideration would expand mandated time off to just about every employer in the state. There are supporters of the bill and there are naysayers. Take a listen to this. Watch this.
It's bad public policy to put workers in a situation where they have to choose between paying their rent and staying home with a sick child. So we're going to fix that this session. I feel confident.
We have pickpocketed the employees in the state of Connecticut with the paid family medical leave program. There's over $700 million of surplus sitting in that account, and employees have been denied up to 35% of funding.
All right, Liz, you have Candelora pictures on your vanity at home, right? So why don't you take it?
I do not, but he is right here.
He is close to your heart, right?
Look, when you look at this, we passed this bill in 2011, and it's been implemented since 2012. These, just recently, Harvard Business Journal put out a survey. 62% of Connecticut businesses are opposed to expanding this program. When you look at the impact from the 2012 implementation of Malloy's bill, 15.5% of Connecticut's businesses were forced to raise prices on consumers. Are we talking about adding costs to services and goods for Connecticut residents again at the hands of the government? Give me a break. We can't even implement the policies that we have effectively. This is completely outside the bounds of trying to make Connecticut a place where businesses want to come and where small businesses can grow. It's a really bad idea, and I think if Democrats do this in an election year, they're going to pay the price.
See, I see it differently. I think the pandemic showed us that we don't want sick people at work. When you're sick, you need to go home, and there's a sector of our society, when they don't go to work, they don't get paid. They don't get paid, they can't pay their bills. I'm alarmed that the underutilization, and there's so much money in that account, I voted for it. I helped push it. And I always thought the money would go out the door as soon as it came in, and we'd be looking at deficits in the account. So that way people were getting the care they needed and being able to pay their bills. We should address that. And expanding it is a good idea. I think the governor was leery on it initially, Governor Lamont. He's come to really embrace it now and understand the need for it here in the state. I think it will pass. A little negotiations will happen along the way.
Yeah, I do think that's a problem, though. There's so much money in the account. Maybe we should make sure the existing law is working before we expand it. And then I'm always troubled, though, about one size fits all, because not every small business is exactly the same. So this is going to hurt some really small businesses, although overall it's probably not going to have a huge impact on the business community, but it's a sort of one size fits all kind of
Quickly, Danielle.
Yeah.
Well, look, as a local mayor looking at local businesses, there are some unintended consequences that we need to look through. And so while I support the initial bill, the expansion, we have to take a closer look. You know, so the one size fits all, I understand, but for small businesses in the local communities, they may not be able to afford this.
All right, guys. Stopping street takeovers, school bus safety, the March for Life, dogs sleeping with cats. Interesting week at the state capitol. Here to discuss it all, Newsday's political contributor Mike Cerulli. The Ghostbusters went right over your head. We go inside the capitol. We get back. Don't go away. He has no idea what that means. No idea. No idea.
It's created not just these devices, but a computing and technological ecosystem known broadly as iOS that locks us in to Apple.
Very serious. Attorney General William Tong taking aim at Apple in a fiery press conference. That was just one of the many happenings up at the Capitol this week. And joining us to break down all of this under the Golden Dome, our pal, News 8's Mike Cerulli. Hey, Mike, tell us about William Tong's latest beef with big tech, Mike.
Yeah, good morning, Tom. Attorney General Tong was up at the Capitol backing a federal suit that alleges Apple has a monopoly on the smartphone market. The suit highlights a number of features on the iPhone that the DOJ argues are anti-competitive. Notably, and I find this kind of funny, honestly, those green text bubbles that denote a non-iPhone user in iMessage. Tong and the DOJ both point to that as a way that Apple undermines the quality of rival smartphones, essentially stigmatizing and degrading the quality of messages from non-iPhones. That's what they allege, and that one got a lot of play on social media. The AG, of course, not shy about suing big tech. We'll be tracking it to see where it goes.
Right, Mike. So let's talk about legislation. A lot of key committees are advancing bills. Tell us about some of the bills that got through this week, Mike.
Yeah, well, for the committees that were actually able to agree on meeting this week, there were some notable votes. On the Labor Committee, we talked about the paid sick bill. The Senate version of that bill got through. Labor Committee didn't vote on a bill to provide protections for rideshare drivers. Legislation cracking down on street takeovers, that got a bipartisan nod on public safety. Senate President Looney personally testified on that bill, and on GAE. Two sweeping election integrity bills are making their way toward the floor. One of those bills allows for the state to essentially take over local elections.
Mike, I wonder where they want to take over state elections. I think I have a couple places that comes to mind. And GAE also hearing a proposal on a possible constitutional amendment?
Yes, Senate Joint Resolution 4 calls for abortion to be added under the state constitution's Equal Protection Clause. State Rep. Jillian Gilchrist, she told me last week that she'd like to see abortion at all stages of pregnancy protected by that proposed amendment. And our old Capitol Report pal, Chris Healy, he showed up to Hartford on Wednesday with 1,800 of his closest friends to voice their opposition to that proposed amendment at the March for Life.
Busy time at the Capitol. Mike Cerulli, thanks for joining us, Mike. Talk to you next week.
Great to be here.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, so could the end be near for the Independent Party in Connecticut? We'll dive into this somewhat convoluted issue. We get back. Don't go away. Great Cerulli. Let go on. Let go on. The great Healy. Healy sighting up there, huh? Connecticut's Independent Party is in a fight to save its name. There's an election reform bill looking to end the use of that name. Supporters say it's confusing for voters for a political party to use such a term as independent, unaffiliated, or unenrolled in a party name. Folks at the Independent Party, well, as you well can imagine, not happy about this. They're killing the party. Watch this.
So why is it now, after 20 years of trying to build a viable third party in Connecticut and give voters a real third choice on the ballot, the need to eliminate our chosen party name? There's little confusion among voters about the fact we are a real party. There's more confusion among the register of voters in many towns who do not put voters into our party after the voter states they want to be a member of the Independent Party.
McKinney, I still think Riker's A Connecticut Party is still around. Maybe they can just like take that over.
Dust that off. It starts with an A.
Exactly. Hey,
you know, my old colleague, Senator Don Williams, Senate President, tried to do away with this because at the time the Independent Party was cross-endorsing Republicans. Now they aren't. Look, this is terrible. This is a terrible bill. The two parties want to make sure that they have a duopoly going forward. I think we ought to actually, if I were a Republican, I would amend this bill to stop it and actually to say to the third parties, you can't cross-endorse people who are running as Republicans and Democrats. And if you want to participate in public financing, you can only be on one ballot.
Yeah,
we actually need real
third-party
party choice in this state.
Yeah, and that really would change the dynamic because you really can get multiple bites of the apple. I was consistently endorsed by the Working Families Party, so there was an election where the Working Families Party was the difference in my election.
Johanna Hayes.
Johanna Hayes and others. So it does need to be cleaned up. I think campaign finance is the way to go about it, not taking away people's ability to name whatever party they want to name it. It more or less stands for what they believe in, whether it's Working Families, Independent. There is a core belief in the party somewhere.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because if we're going to be, making sure that the parties registered are actually doing the work that they say they want to do, Working Families Party is completely antithetical to working families. So I think if we're going to have that conversation, we probably need to open this up in a more broad way. I think at the end of the day, it is wrong for the Secretary of State and for government to step in on that piece. I agree with you in terms of allowing people who are cross-endorsed to get the CEP funding. I think the bigger issue, obviously, is the Independent Party lost the ballot line for governor. They'd have to go get that back.
Well, there is a lot of confusion when it comes to unaffiliates thinking that they are also independent. So, but I think that we need to take a look at how we civically educate folks on the local side. Equipped our registrar of voters and the Republicans or independents and the Democrats Democratic Register of Voters with the necessary resources to educate the voting class on what is a party affiliation, where do you vote, what does that mean, what do you stand for?
Well, I think the DMV probably registers a few other Democrats through motor voter. Nobody wants to get rid of that, do they? All right, guys, politics and soda pop sounds downright American, doesn't it? Next on Cap Report, the Connecticut company from New Britsky that's pouring a little color into the 2024 election. Do not go away. A taste test is next.
Hard hitting New Britain.
That's it, hard hitting New Britain.
There you go.
That's it, HHMB, baby.
Yep. In case you missed it, we have a presidential election coming up in November. In fact, it's a rematch. And once again, the good friends, my folks at Avery's Beverages in New Britain are relaunching their election-themed beverages for 2024. Yep, there are 3 of them this year for 2024. There's the Biden Berry, which of course is blue, the Trump Tonic, which is a sour grape and red. And then you know who those are still on the fence. There's a new brand called None of the Above, which is citrus flavored. My friends in the panel, hey, time for a taste test, guys. What do you think?
Here we go.
Cheers. How do you think?
Hey, in all fairness, we all tried to grab Tom's bottle.
Yeah, we all wanted none of the above.
This will go good with vodka.
They should have put Lieberman's picture on that one.
It's not bad, huh?
This is actually very good.
Notes in red.
So if they're watching, I think they ought to come out with a third alternative called Kennedy Crush.
Kennedy Crush.
Oh.
Our friend Rob
one's
Metz.
a little bitter.
Our friend Rob Metz from Avery's sent this to us. Many thanks, Rob. That'll do it, guys, for the mayor, for the coach, for Liz, Johnny Mac. Dudchik. See you next week.
None of the above, baby.
Cheers.
Should have more orange in it.
Oh, come on, John.
Come on, Johnny.
Come on, end the show.
Oh, it was close.
Kentucky.
Enjoy March Madness, everybody.
The white